Have a look at this photo of Kakadu National Park and think about what you see. I'm guessing that you didn't really notice the small grassy plants in the foreground of the photo, but when I visited Kakadu earlier this year, these grasses were what I was most excited to see. These are wild sorghum species, wild relatives of the crop sorghum, and they are the major focus of my PhD. Sorghum is a cereal crop like wheat or rice, mainly eaten by people in sub-Saharan Africa, though in Australia you can find it in products such as gluten-free wheat bix. It is actually Australia's third largest crop, and it is mainly used here for feeding livestock. What makes sorghum especially useful in Australia is its drought tolerance compared to other livestock forages. This trait is becoming increasingly useful in the face of global climate change. However, in hot and dry conditions, sorghum leaves tend to produce high levels of toxic cyanide, which is obviously a massive problem for the livestock trying to eat them. This is where the wild sorghums come in. There are 17 species of wild sorghum native to Australia, which have been adapting to the diverse conditions found across the country for thousands of years. As a result, researchers have found a wealth of traits in these species that would be incredibly useful in crop sorghum. These traits include resistance to various pests and diseases, as well as drought tolerance without producing these dangerous levels of toxic cyanide. If we are able to introduce these traits into the crop through methods like crossbreeding, we will be able to produce more resilient crops with the potential to reduce livestock losses during major droughts. During my PhD, I've taken a multi-pronged approach to aiding efforts in using wild sorghums for crop improvement. Firstly, I looked at the shortcomings of current conservation of them, which allowed me to determine the priority species for further protection and the best methods for achieving this. Secondly, I looked at cyanide production in a range of sorghum species compared to the crop, checking whether there are any circumstances under which the wild species would produce these dangerous levels of cyanide. The good news is that even with lots of nitrogen fertilizer thrown at them, I found that I couldn't get these wild species to produce high cyanide levels in their leaves once they were past the seedling stage. Currently, I'm looking at the level of diversity between individuals taken from different areas in Northern Australia to get an idea of how just one species can adapt to very different climatic conditions. This is very useful knowledge when trying to grow one crop, like sorghum, in a range of different climates across Australia. I think these wild sorghum species nicely emphasize the wealth of resources that are available to us in nature, which are not always very evident on first glance. This is one of the key reasons why environmental protection not only benefits wildlife, but also human well-being. Who knows what other plants in this photo have naturally adapted traits which offer solutions to complex problems we face in the world today.